Fans, this is JD of BBTV News, and I'm back to give y'all the latest and greatest news in the sport of boxing. With that being said, if this is your first time on the channel, I'd like to invite you to hit that subscribe button, as well as that notification bell so that you are updated on the latest and greatest drops that we have here on Boxing Vibes TV. Now, let's talk a little bit about Mr. Rolly Romero and what transpired over the weekend with that TKO loss to Issac Cruz. Now, of course, the whole boxing world is trolling Rolly Romero now. And one particular person would be Mr. Oscar De La Hoya. And mainly because, remember, Rolly Romero was supposed to be in negotiations with, Oscar De La Hoya and Golden Boy for a massive Ryan Garcia versus Rolly Romero bout. Check out Oscar, in his reaction to hearing that he suffered a TKO loss to Issac Cruz. Now, at this point, there is no shortage of trolls on the internet right now when it comes to Rolly Romero. A lot of people felt like he was a hype job. A lot of people, didn't like Rolly Romero. While he was entertaining, he was sort of a fighter that was sort of, popped up out of nowhere. We don't know where they got Rolly Romero from for this Gervonta Tank Davis fight, but interestingly, he popped up out of nowhere right around that time that Gervonta Tank Davis and Floyd Mayweather were having a bit of friction. Now, if you remember back in history, you had Tank Davis, who was kind of fed up with Floyd Mayweather at a particular point, and it looked kind of shaky as far as what the next deal was that Gervonta Tank Davis was going to sign. And so this is when out of nowhere, you end up getting him facing off against a Rolly Romero so that, you could end up getting him a little bit of publicity and be able to start using Rolly Romero for a few fights. Now, in the sport of boxing, there's probably at this point a short list of fighters that you could fight against, and even if you take an L, all you want is the publicity of facing off against that fighter, and it'll kind of give you a little bit of clout and some recognition in the sport. And those fighters right now are probably the likes of a Gervonta Tank Davis, as we've seen with Rolly Romero, Mario Barrios. We've seen that as well with Issac Cruz. So Gervonta Tank Davis is one of those fighters where you could lose to him, but getting in the ring with him adds clout to you. You got a Canelo Alvarez, who is the money man in the sport still. Everybody's clamoring for that fight with a Canelo Alvarez. You could get in the ring against him, potentially take an L, and you don't really lose, any luster if you take an L to Canelo. And another fighter at this point would be the pound-for-pound kingpin, Terrence Bud Crawford. If you hop in the ring with Terrence Bud Crawford, right now you take an L to him, you might lose a little bit of luster, but everybody's not going to say that you're just washed after getting demolished or defeated by Terrence Bud Crawford, because he's widely considered right now the top pound-for-pound fighter. Now, with Rolly Romero, he ascended to notoriety after that Tank Davis bout, and PBC strategically, as they oftentimes are very savvy at doing, they were able to position him for a 140-pound title. That is when we saw him in the ring against Ismael Barroso, where we all epically saw one of the worst stoppages in boxing. Flat out, it was one of the worst stoppages in boxing with Rolly Romero versus Barroso. And it appeared at that point that there was some home cooking, because the whole angle was to get Rolly Romero a 140-pound title so that they could make some other massive money fights with Rolly Romero. So we end up getting the ugly upset with Barroso that the boxing world was upset at, rightfully so. Everybody deserved to be upset with that decision. Barroso was winning the bout and should have ended up winning the bout had it been able to continue. But then we get to, after he gets the 140-pound title, and we get to the negotiation between Rolly Romero and a Ryan Garcia. Now, Oscar De La Hoya had widely stated that he was looking to make a exciting, fun, entertaining bout between Ryan Garcia and Rolly Romero. You know that Ryan Garcia, as we see on social media, has no shortage of quotes and different antics that are going to drum up enough interest in a fight for it to sell and do well. Right? You know that Ryan Garcia is going to bring that to the table. But you also know that with a Rolly Romero, he's never had a shortage of quotes and silliness and antics that would also make him, very, very much a high figure in the sport that people want to watch to see whether he's going to win or lose. You know that Rolly Romero definitely loves to talk, and he's going to say something very, very left and sideways that's going to make you pause for a minute. So Oscar De La Hoya was looking at how you can literally take a Ryan Garcia and a Rolly Romero and make a highly entertaining and a highly lucrative bout between the two of them. Now, here's where everything goes weird, and we'll never know what really, really happened. But we can speculate as fans how this all went down. So initially, we had a Ryan Garcia, supposedly talking to a Devin Haney initially, right? Even though Devin Haney and Ryan Garcia are about to fight on April 20th, they actually broke off negotiations for a little while. And then Ryan Garcia spun the block back to Devin Haney, right? And in that between time is when you had a Ryan Garcia buddying up and getting a little cozy with a Floyd Mayweather, who we know is the top ally of Mayweather Promotions, as well as Al Haymon's PBC. He is probably the number one fighter who is going to forever into perpetuity be marketing and be the recruiter of fighters for the PBC. That's going to be Mr. Floyd Money Mayweather. And so around that time, the Devin Haney versus Ryan Garcia thing had fallen apart, and there were talks of us potentially getting a Ryan Garcia versus Rolly Romero bout. Now, this would have put that title for Rolly Romero that he had from Ismael Barroso on the line. That 140-pound strap would have been on the line with Ryan Garcia and Rolly Romero. But for some odd reason, weirdly, it all fell apart. It all fell apart suddenly out of the blue. And we're left to wonder if that probably the real reason why Ryan Garcia versus Rolly Romero fell apart is that when you look at how PBC navigates the boxing world, you couldn't afford, yet again, to end up allowing a Ryan Garcia to snag that 140-pound title away from a Rolly Romero and then take that title over to Golden Boy. I mean, we saw Ryan Garcia courtside with Floyd Mayweather. We saw him cruising around malls with Floyd Mayweather. And so clearly there was some negotiations going on, whether it was what percentages would be taken in the fight, whether it was, is there a way for him to get bought out of his contract with Golden Boy? There were clearly some real talks going on with Ryan Garcia and Floyd Mayweather. But in the end, all of that ended up falling apart at the end of the day. And so we ended up not getting Rolly Romero in a massive, lucrative bout with Ryan Garcia. And he ended up facing off against a Issac Cruz. And I got to keep it real, man. Unfortunately, man, they really blew the bag on this one. They really, really blew the bag on this one. Because at the end of the day, we know that he would have easily made, Rolly Romero would have easily made way more money with a Ryan Garcia right now if that would have been the fight that occurred this past Saturday than he made as being a co-feature with a Issac Cruz. I mean, there's probably no comparison in the amount of money that they could have generated. They would have ended up making Ryan Garcia versus Rolly Romero a main event. That would have been a pay-per-view main event, which would have been, a massive fight and done exciting numbers for both parties, for Golden Boy and for the PBC. But unfortunately, because they didn't want to allow Oscar De La Hoya and Ryan Garcia to have any success and potentially take the title and be the A side, they end up putting Rolly Romero against Issac Cruz. Mind you, this is the same Issac Cruz that at one point was supposed to face off against Ryan Garcia, and Oscar De La Hoya and Golden Boy pumped the brakes on that fight very quickly. They pumped the brakes real quickly, and we had word that it was going to be Ryan Garcia versus Issac Cruz, and suddenly, all of a sudden, that whole fight fell apart. There was no Ryan Garcia versus Issac Cruz because they said, nah, it's not the right time. So at the end of the day, for a Rolly Romero, I really think with being a loyal soldier to the PBC, he might have blown the bag on this one. Because now when you look at the knockout to Gervonta Tank Davis, when you look at the highway robbery that we saw occur with Ishmael Barroso, when you look at the way he just got knocked out by Issac Cruz, right now, it's suffice to say that Rolly Romero's got to take a step back, that he really has to take a step back and probably rebuild his career at this point. Because at this point, he's looked at as being highly overrated and, just being a plant that Floyd Mayweather and Leonard Ellerbe stuck into the game through Gervonta Tank Davis. It's looking like he really is somebody that does not belong on this level at all. So, unfortunately, because he was loyal to the PBC and he rocked and rolled with them and went into this fight with Issac Cruz, I ain't gonna lie, man, he missed out on a lot of money with Ryan Garcia, man. That was probably the smarter bout. That was the smarter bout, because if you were gonna lose the title, you want to maximize the payday. And I know that Ryan Garcia bout would have been way more lucrative than this Issac Cruz bout. But at the end of the day, with PBC, they always believe in all money in and all titles in. So at the end of the day, if they weren't able to get any kind of real agreement long-term with Ryan Garcia or really pull him away from Oscar De La Hoya, they, of course, were going to double back and keep Rolly Romero away so that with Issac Cruz, you got Issac Cruz signed long-term. So at the end of the day, man, that's how PBC operates. But for Rolly Romero, man, he takes an L on this one. He absolutely takes an L, not only literally in the loss column, but he takes an L in his wallet. So we'll see what's next for Rolly Romero. Y'all let me know what y'all think in the comment section. Who should Rolly Romero have fought Ryan Garcia, or did PBC kind of do him a little dirty and have him take less money and end up getting bebopped by Issac Cruz, and now he's lost the 140-pound title? Y'all let me know what y'all think in the comment section. This is JD at BBTV News. I'm going to keep giving y'all the latest and greatest news in the sport of boxing. Please make sure you hit that subscribe button as well as that notification bell. And until next time, deuces.